If you're learning Python and you want to know about lists, then watch this video. This is from a series about programming specifically made for the Computer Science Principle course. We'll be looking what is a list, looking at the indexes of lists, and also list functions. At the end of this video, we've got some simple exercises with the solutions, and also we're going to set some advanced practice exercises. Now, what is a list? A list is just a collection of items, as you know in real life. In Python, it's a data type that can hold multiple values, and it's called an array in other languages. So let's have a look at lists in Python. So we've got a list of numbers, integers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see we use these square brackets, and we can give it like a name. In this case, the name is just x. We just use the simple equal sign. So now x is the list of integers 1 to 5. The second example, we've got y. We've got a list of strings, red, blue and green. Empty list we can create just using these square brackets. We can also use different types inside the list. So the elements are of different types. Finally, we can put lists inside lists. So those are lists. We can print a list and we can print the length using len. So that's length. Here we've got a list 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. We can check to see if an element is inside that. So here we've selected 30. Is 30 in the list called x? Yes, it is. So it's going to print in list. Now, how do we access list elements? So we can use indexes. So we start off, we're going to print x, square brackets again, 1. So what's the number 1 index from x? Now you may think that's the first number, the first element. Actually it's the second. You can see here, we print x1, that prints 20. And the reason why is because the list index starts at 0. So when we print x with 0 in brackets, that prints the first element 10. So it starts at 0, so if we go 0, 1, 2, that would print 30. And the last element in this case is x with the index 4, so that would print 50. Now if we try to print an element with the number that's too high, that would mean that it's not in the list. So this list would go up to index 4. If we try to print x5, we would get an out of range error. Here we can use the index, a negative index, and that starts at the end of a list. So if we start at 1, but at the end, so that's -1, that would print the last element, which is 50 in this case. -2 would print the second last element, which is 40 in this case. Now we saw in the previous video that we could slice strings. We could do the same with a list. So here we've got a list again from 10 to 50, and if we want to slice the elements from 1 to 4, that would give us 20, 30 and 40. Now if we start from the beginning, we can just use the colon. So to beginning to the index 3, if you like, the place 3, we can slice 10, 20 and 30. 3 to the end, again we can just put the colon if we're going to the end. 3 to the end would give us 40 to 50. And finally, if we just have x, the square brackets and the colon, that means go from the beginning to the end. That would give us all the elements 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now here, x in position 1 equals 5. So we're changing that element and position, which was 20, into the number 5. You can see with the prints, we've got print 10, 5, 30, 40, 50. So the output, you can see the list has changed. So we can change the elements in a list by using the index. The next example, we've got x3 equals -1. So now we've got 10, 5, 30, -1, 50. The final one, we're actually taking a slice and changing those elements between 2 and 4 to A and B. And that now gives us 10, 5, A and B, 50. So we can change elements using the index or even a slice. Now let's look at list functions. Here we're using append. So we have list, uppercase ABC, append adds on a single value at the end of the list, in this case D. Extend does the same, but rather than for one element, we can add more than one. So in this example, we've got two lists. We're going to add the B list at the end of A list. So we've got ABC and then we've got DEF. We could also concatenate or add together. So here we've got A list plus B list, and we've got again ABC, DEF. Insert, we choose the place, in this case 2, and the element is D. So that would give us a list of A, B, then D, and then C. So the first example, we remove the actual element B, so that gives us a list of A and C. In the second example, we use pop. Now, if there's no number in brackets, pop will take the last element of a list. In this case, we've got 1 in brackets, and index 1 is the B. So that will leave us with a list A and C. If we delete, then the list completely disappears. So if we try to print it, we'd get an error message. Now, if we want to keep the list but remove all the elements, we can use clear. So here we've got alist.clear. When we print it, we've still got the list. It exists, but it's empty. So that will just print the square brackets to say we have an empty list. Reverse does what you think it does. So now ABC goes to CBA. We've got sort, which does, as you'd imagine, from BAC sorts them to ABC. So that will sort in order. Be careful with uppercase and lowercase letters though. Here we've got sort, but reverse is true. So now when we sort them, we go to BAC goes to CBA. So they're in order but reversed. Now let's see how we loop through a list. So we've got the same list and we're going to go through it using a for loop. We can just use any variable. Here we've used Y. For Y in X, print Y, and then it prints each element on a different line, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. We could do the same with reversed. So the list is in brackets behind the keyword reversed in a for loop, prints 50 down to 10. Here we're using the index. So we've got a while loop, we've got the index. While the index is less than the length, we're going to print the element. So the index is going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now x0 is going to be 10. x1 is going to be 20, up to x4 is going to be 50. Here we're using a for loop with the index. You can see here the first number is I, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then x, the list, the index, accessing the element by the index, then x of 0 is 10, x1 is 20, up to x4 is 50. So you can see here we're printing the index and the element in that place in the list. So that's how you can use a loop and the index. The pseudocode. Here we've got a list that we can display of 10, 20 and 30, and also we've got the element. So we change the element x1. Notice here with pseudocode the list starts at 1 and not 0. So x of 1 is the first element, not x of 0. So in pseudocode it's different from Python. So that can be a bit confusing. Here's an example where we loop through a list. We've got for each number in nums. So num in nums, display num, that prints each number. So we're looping through the list. And finally, something you might see in exams is where two elements are swapped. Now in pseudocode we can create a temporary variable. So a list element is put into that temporary variable. Then we swapped the values in two places, and then the one that's empty, if you like, now gets the value that was in the temporary variable. So that's how to swap two elements in a list. So 10, 20, 30 has now gone to 20, 10, 30. So 10 and 20 have swapped places. So that's how to do that in pseudocode. Let's have a look at some simple practice exercises. Create a list of integers from 1 to 10 and print it. You can see the expected output here. Number 2, do the same but print it backwards or in reverse. Number 3, we've got 1, 2, 4, 5. We want to insert 3 in the place that gives it the output when we print it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 4, remove the last element of the list, then add 40 to the end of the list. So we've got 10, 20, 30, 50, but once we remove the 50 and add 40, then we've got 10, 20, 30, 40. Finally, number 5, use a for loop to print the list of indexes and values. Okay, we're going to give you the solutions for them, but let's have a look at the advanced practice exercises. Now have a look at these, see if you can do them, and each day for the next 5 days we'll give a video showing a solution to each question. So these exercises, the solutions, will be in the following videos this week. Number 1, double each element in the list. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the output is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 when we print the new list. Number 2, find the lowest value in a list. In this example, the lowest value is -3. You could use a function called minimum, but we don't want you to do that. Number 3, swap the negative numbers in this list to positive numbers so you can see the output from the original list. 4, swap the first and last elements in the list. And number 5, swap the first and last 2 elements in the list. Now let's have a look at the solutions for these simple exercises. Number 1, we've got a simple for loop. We print 1 to 10. Number 2, we've got the same list, but we're going to use reverse in the for loop to print 10 down to 1. Number 3, we insert at the position 2 and the number 3. So x.insert 2, 3 will now give us the output when we print the list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 4, remove the last element, we use pop, and then add to the element, we use append. So we end up with 10, 20, 30 and 40. Finally, we're going to print the index and the element. So we've got the for loop using range and length of x, print I, and x of I will give us the output. That's great. If you've learned anything today from this video, please give us a like, and it would really help us if you subscribe to the channel, and then you'll be notified of the videos that are going to be released soon with the answers to those advanced exercises. So stay with us and look out for those videos.